Now, we all just endured a man-made disaster on Thursday evening. Some of you maybe punted this viewing into the weekend. I took more than one emergency call from friends who hit a specific part in that episode and have been traumatized greatly. I myself am among them, but I'm like Hoda, I'm a giver. So I'm like Hilaria Baldwin. I'd rather you be comfortable first. So I put aside my own pain and trauma to attend to the wounded out there. And now we're all going to talk about it. So the season premiere, season three of the Sex and the City sequel, and Just Like That dropped. And we talked about Sex and the City a couple of episodes ago, and we got so much response from you guys. I was hearing stuff like either I always hated that show too, but I was in the minority, so I had to keep my mouth shut, or I came to New York thinking that was a realistic way for young women to live, that it would be just all designer shoes and Cosmos and brunches and beautiful apartments, and holy shit, did I get the wind knocked out of me. It's not like that at all. Or yeah, like my daughter's watching it now and I'm trying to tell her this is fucked up. So anyway, I thought it was worth revisiting because we open this episode, and I did a lot of research for you guys. So this is not just me opining, okay? We begin this episode. Carrie's living in one of these old, like these are really old, beautiful houses in Gramercy Park in New York City. These are very rare. There are very few of them. They date back to at least the 1800s. She's living in like a $40 million house. Okay, it's obscene, and they have this woman running around licking stamps to put on postcards. Okay. Like stamps haven't been self-adhesive for decades. I mean, this isn't NASA technology, but Carrie's just being her young, coquettish, youthful, whimsical 80-year-old self. I mean, she looks like she's 80 years old. And you cannot tell me that these writers and producers and costume designers aren't fucking with Sarah Jessica Parker. They are. They make claim to the contrary, and we're going to go through a little bit of the official companion podcast and Just Like That. But so now her character, Carrie, we're picking up from last season where Aiden, again, as discussed, you can go back. I can't do the deep dive, but this guy comes back into her life, and trust me, he would never in real life. This guy would never have a thing to do with her. Okay, so he says to her that their reignited third go round has to be put on pause for 5 years, and during that time, they can have no communication. No texting, no emailing, no flares, nothing. Okay. And he left her, and he's moved multiple states away. And so this is the edict. And she's treating it like they're in a really loving, healthy, mutual relationship that's just hit like a bump. That is called a breakup. So that is either the character of Aiden. I don't think the writers are firing on all cylinders, and we're going to get to one who I think is a chief problem in that writer's room. I don't think they're firing enough on all cylinders to be this smart, like where they're doing a subtextual kind of thing where it's like Aiden's really just fucking with her for, again, put me in that writer's room. I got a million ideas. I would have him be fucking with her for all the lying and the cheating she put him through, for losing his beloved dog, for accepting his marriage proposal and allowing him to buy not only her apartment, but the one next door and combine the two. And all she does is bitch and moan while he's doing all this renovation work for free. And then she breaks his heart yet again. But everything's great with Aiden now. Everything's great. He's out in Virginia, which in this show's world, that's code for bumfuck USA. That's what they think of middle America. Okay. Code for bumfuck USA. What are you doing with that country yokel? Okay. Now, a woman like Carrie, who is ostensibly a Manhattan sophisticate whose friends are smart and high powered and wealthy, would be taken by the hand by at least one of them and told, listen, I am taking you to the best psychoanalyst in New York. Okay. Because women like this always have a great shrink on speed dial. Jackie O was in therapy for the bulk of her adult life in New York City. Okay. So this mental patient, by the way, okay, we all were nearly blinded by this hat. Look at this hat that they put Sarah Jessica Parker, AKA Carrie, in. Okay. That hat, by the way, that hat retails for almost $600. Okay. Wearing that hat alone, they'd have her committed. the hat alone, but the refusal to get help for talking about this guy who has ghosted her as she's in a loving, mutually supportive, healthy relationship. If she refused the help that was offered to her, the deep psychological help she frankly needs, that entire cohort would back away slowly, because that's the kind of person who becomes a social and professional liability. A huge liability. You cannot be seen in that company, okay? You can't have her telling your shit all over town. Now, Michael Patrick King, who has been the circus ringleader of this debacle for 3 years now. And to hear him talk on this podcast, like, he's so impressed with himself. Like, he really thinks he's a fucking genius. And, this is his playground. These are his women. There are these one or two original writers from Sex and the City, and you can tell they're trying to, like, or they gave up long ago, really, I think, trying to inject any of the show's original DNA into this woke, flat, one-dimensional, humorless reboot that really exists as a shrine to the ego of Sarah Jessica Parker. And they have a newish writer named Samantha Irby, and we're going to talk about her because it's important, okay? But, okay, on the podcast, the official companion podcast, they talked about the choice of that hat. It's worth noting Patricia Field, who was the original costume supervisor on the original Sex and the City and is a genius. She has nothing to do with the show. She's over at Emily in Paris, okay? Making people look fucking awesome. I don't know who's doing this, but if they're not fucking with Sarah Jessica Parker, they might be legally blind. Okay, listen to Michael Patrick King on the choice of this hat.
If you're going to wear a hat, that's the hat to wear.
Yes.
Eating sherbet. And why not? The beginning of this episode is all about Carrie making up her own rules and being an individual. She's not Mrs. Waiting for Aiden. She's kind of like going to go ahead. She's wearing the hat.
She thinks it's fun and fun.
It is
all
fun.
I know is
She's making her own rules. I mean, this woman's like 60 something, like, what is she rebelling against? Her insurance carrier denying her cover. What the fuck is she rebelling against? There's nothing to rebel against. Rebellion is for the young, okay? Rebellion is for the young. And you just have to let it go at a certain point. I mean, we're troublemakers and we are rebelling, but we're not rebelling by wearing hats like that. That hat which screams like, just pay attention to me at any given time. When you see the pictures of Sarah Jessica Parker in that hat on set, like, she's walking around like she's hot shit. She thinks she looks great. I mean, my God. Oh my God. She should get together with Hoda Kotb. They should do like a book club or something. They should do some sort of like manifesting event. Okay. Anyway, other disasters of note. There is a beautiful, beautiful actress on this show. Really, her character is given nothing to do. She doesn't exist but to be a token friend. Okay. They have woke has become tokenism, and tokenism is the exact thing that you would think woke is against. But these are not geniuses running the show. So there's this beautiful actress named Nicole Ari Parker, and they've outfitted her character, who goes by LTW. Like, there are several scenes where she's wearing this enormous necklace that looks like dryer balls. It's like you couldn't even move your head one way or the other, this dress. And these are the kind of encumbrances. Again, I think Michael Patrick King is a gay man who hates women, and that is a type. That is a specific type, and you've got to watch out for it. Like, he's making these women look like ridiculous. He's making Sarah Jessica Parker look like she belongs, like she needs to have a cognitive Joe Biden level evaluation, and he's marring the style and beauty of this other actress, by dressing her up to look, again, ridiculous. And her oh my God, her plot line in this, it's so stupid. She wants to do a documentary about unsung black sheroes that nobody's ever heard of. And she's having this pitch meeting at like PBS or whatever. And they're like, yeah, that sounds great, but you need like a star, which is what really anybody would say. Like, you need a star. Can you get Michelle Obama? I think they could be teeing up a Michelle Obama cameo, and I would love this for her. I can only hope it's happening. I can only hope. Now, Rosie O'Donnell appears. Now, they don't talk about Rosie O in this podcast, and I wonder why. But Rosie O appears, and she's playing, again, a hick. If you're not from New York, you're a fucking loser. What are you doing? Why are you living your life? Move to New York or die. So they're all making fun of her, not because she's a nun and a virgin in her 50s or 60s who comes to New York and has a one-night stand with Miranda. And we were all silently saying to ourselves, please do not show Cynthia Nixon and Rosie O'Donnell, two of New York City's most obnoxious lesbians in bed. But they did it. They showed it. They fucking showed it. Okay. And, but the embarrassment wasn't that, that Rosie O'Donnell had sex with Cynthia Nixon. Cynthia Nixon's the loser in this scenario. but it's that they depicted Rosie O'Donnell as a hick who wanted to take Miranda to do things like go on a carousel at Central Park. Or, this is a show that, by the way, put Sarah Jessica Parker in a fucking horse and carriage ride, horse and buggy ride with the Russian in winter to show how romantic they were. And that's something I can assure you that no native New Yorker has ever been in one of those. I refuse, not only just because it's a cliche. I think those horses are abused, and I think it's a huge crime. It's a huge animal rights crime. But no, so Rosie O'Donnell is like, she goes to see Wicked and she's wearing a Wicked shirt and t-shirt, and she wants to meet Miranda in Times Square, and Carrie and Miranda are laughing about what a hick she is. Nice, nice. Okay, now we're gonna get to the real crime here. Once you see this scene, you can't unsee it. And if you haven't seen this episode, I don't know whether I should advise you to watch it because it's so fucking wild and disturbing, or avert, abort. That's me talking to Jax Taylor at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Abort. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to do this for you. So we've had this story spun that this is a huge win for Carrie. Okay, that so the way they talk about it is that Carrie knows that Aiden's coming back. Aiden's going to come back. That's why she's not delusional, thinking that they're in a loving, healthy relationship, even though he said, I'm not going to see or talk to you for 5 years. And don't go and be with anybody else. Don't have sex with anybody else. Don't go on a date with anybody else. Don't so much as look at another man. It's like you're dating Bill Maher. Okay. And so they say that she was so secure in her knowledge that Aiden would never be able to resist Carrie for that long. Because really, we're talking about Sarah Jessica Parker, not Carrie Bradshaw. That Aiden would come back. He'd come running back, so enraptured by her youthful beauty, just her whimsical young ways. So he cold calls her in the middle of the night. He wakes her up. And he's like, I want to have phone sex. And she's like, okay. That's a big win. That's what the kids used to call a booty call. Okay. He just wants to get his rocks off. And he's like, oh, I miss you so much. He just wants to get his rocks off. Okay. So we are subjected to sites. We should never have seen this. And I don't understand why Sarah Jessica Parker went along with this. Is Michael Patrick King in her ear being like, this is so edgy and cool, and we're going to go viral, and people are going to love you for it. They're going to say you're braver than like who calls themselves brave? Like, when actors go nude, they're like, oh, I was so brave. Okay. So she begins masturbating we watch Carrie Bradshaw administer to herself while she's on the phone. And this is how old timey. When I said these women are old, I mean philosophically, technologically old. They're not in the real world with us. She's masturbating while holding her iPhone with her other hand to her ear. Like most people, this would be a FaceTime with like a computer or like a phone, or she would just put it on speaker, or she would be like, wait, let me get my earbuds in. Okay. So that's one of, but again, and nobody wants to see Sarah Jessica Parker be sexual like this. And then we cut to Aiden, who is in a field in Virginia where he lives, in his pickup truck, in the cab of his pickup truck. And he prepares for this real, as again, Michael Patrick King is telling us, this really romantic scene by taking this is graphic. So if you have little ones around or you're not up for it, I'm just warning you now. He takes his hand like this, and we see him in a very slow, deliberate manner lick the entire length of his palm and then shove his hands into his pants and clunkily begin attending to himself. And then he tells Carrie that he got so spooked because he accidentally hit his horn that he sharted. And she laughs. And this is what has become of this show. Okay, look, but Michael Patrick King is going to tell us this is the height of romance. Okay, this is Heathcliff and Catherine. It's Wuthering Heights. It's Elizabeth Bennet and Mr. Darcy. It's Scarlett and Rhett, and we all know how that one turned out. Okay, so let's listen to this brain trust.
Yeah, you can't just have sex. Yeah. You can't, not on this show. That's called pornography. We got to do something else. And this wasn't romance. This was sex. He was saying things like, touch yourself. Are you inside yourself? And it was places we had never gone with Carrie and Aiden.
Okay, they can say that all they want. I'm going to read some comments from New York Magazine's Vulture recap of this episode. I chose these because this is a self-selecting group of hardcore Sex and the City fans, okay? And they are revolting. They are revolted and they are revolting. The bleach I poured into my eyes trying to wash out the scene with Aiden in his truck. Agreed. Number two, I also noticed that the more SJP is involved in this show, the less enjoyable it is. Yeah, exactly right. Number three, I am convinced that Michael Patrick King hates women. This episode proved my theory beyond the shadow of a doubt. He puts the three main characters through some ridiculous scenarios. These are Gen X women, right? I hate watched 2 seasons of this. Kim Cattrall, we're going to get to her later too. It was wise to stay away from this nonsense. What a waste of space. Number four, wholly unwatchable. Number five, last one. I bet Kim Cattrall is laughing hysterically at her former castmates. She is schadenfreuding the shit out of this embarrassing show. I was a little bit more forceful in my choice of language there. Okay. Now I want to get to Samantha Irby really fast because she is now in the writer's room. This is a woman who has been touted to us as one of America's foremost humorists. Not so. I got one of her first collections of essays. I tried to get through it. I couldn't get through like a first chapter. It wasn't funny. But I have a suspicion that her identity might have something to do with it. And it definitely, I think, has something to do with why she's in the writer's room and Just Like That, and has been for the past 3 years. Samantha Irby was taking part in this most recent podcast that you and I were just listening to, okay? She's not exactly the Sex and the City demo. She's not, okay? Sex and the City, for good or ill, it was about four very skinny, ambitious, attractive white women who were just on the hunt for like the alpha male that they could just snag. Okay. They were about money. They were about power. They weren't about causes. They weren't about the oppressed. They weren't, if there was a Black Lives Matter, rally, Sarah Jessica Parker's character would have been using it as like a great time to go shopping because everyone's out in the streets, right? Okay. And Samantha Irby is, by the way, I'm close friends with Roxane Gay, that humorless, insufferable feminist. The New York Times once gave an advice column to her. Okay, I wish they still had it because we'd be going to town all day long. Okay, like Roseanne, Samantha Irby is a woman of color and a lesbian who goes out of her way, it seems, to look as unattractive as possible. Okay, Samantha Irby gave us what I believe it was like. It was a botched abortion. Okay, it was and just like that episode in season 1, episode 5, where Carrie, recovering from her hip replacement. She's young and she's hip. She had a hip replacement. She pees in her bed while Miranda is in Carrie's kitchen getting digitally violated by Che Diaz. Okay? Elegance, aspirational. This new writer's room is befouling an already shaky legacy. Okay? And, I think this might be the last season for them because people are like, I can't even hate watch anymore. That was so off-putting. That was so off-putting and so gratuitous, unnecessary, excuse me.